is understanding that we reflect what is made up in the universe. So we as humans are made up of atoms, and the main atoms that we're made up of is hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen. And lo and behold, out in the universe, in the galaxies, we have hydrogen, oxygen, we have helium. But if you understand science, helium is a noble gas and it cannot bind to, it can't bind to any other atoms. And then we have carbon and nitrogen.
Welcome to season 1 of Beyond the Human. Remember who you are. I'm your host, Hazel Ray, singer-songwriter, experiencer, and messenger for those walking the edge of remembrance just like me. This is not a podcast to convince you of anything. Really, just take what resonates, leave what doesn't. This is a transmission, a call to the ones waking up, the ones remembering, the starseeds, the sensitives, the truth seekers, bridging science and spirit. If you're listening to this, you are ready. So let's remember together.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Human. I'm your host Hazel Ray, and today's episode is called The Invisible Thread, and we are up to episode 10 now, and I'm super excited about just bringing more information, random bits and bobs to you all. And today I really wanted to talk about this invisible thread, the thing that connects us all. And I think some people really have trouble grasping this concept, and no one has trouble grasping the concept of remembering all the times that they've thought of someone and then just to pick up their phone and they've messaged them like an hour earlier, or they call them that day, or you're speaking to someone and they're talking about something really quite profound and you get goosebumps, like a sharp, sort of like a twinge down the back of your spine, and it gives you goosebumps. Everyone can tell you all their stories, but no, we're all separate. So let's talk about some physics, for example. They say that there's more mass in the universe than has been predicted, and you all will experience life through the lens of your eyes, and you'll see matter in the environment around you, whether it be a couch or a television or your kettle or your family, and that atomic matter only accounts for 4% of the universe. 4%. 23% is dark matter and 73% is dark energy. And both of those things are unseen to the human eye. We don't even have some electronics really to detect any of it, and a lot of it is unknown. Now, on that alone, it's wild to me that people still can't consider the concept of what or question what we truly are when we only really understand 4% of the entire universe. And then to go one step further with that is understanding that we reflect what is made up in the universe. So we as humans are made up of atoms, and the main atoms that we're made up of is hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen. And lo and behold, out in the universe, in the galaxies, we have hydrogen, oxygen, we have helium. But if you understand science, helium is a noble gas and it cannot bind to, it can't bind to any other atoms. And then we have carbon and nitrogen. So we are made up of the very stardust that makes up the rest of the universe and all the galaxies. So to consider that we are separate from all of that is crazy to my mind, because we're no different. We're made up of the same atoms. And I love talking about Newton's third law of conservation, which is energy can't be destroyed, only transferred from one form into another. And I've said this in a previous episode, but there's a light shining in my face right now, and if I was to touch the globes, they would be warm. We have electrical energy being transferred into light energy and heat energy. And I have chemical energy in me being transferred into sound energy and heat energy. And I'm expelling a frequency. Now, looking at dark matter and dark energy, I wanted to read to you exactly what they are and what they're not, because I find it really interesting and I think it's important to read. Okay, so here it says that dark matter is a mysterious, invisible type of matter that seems to make up about 23% of the universe. It doesn't emit, absorb, or reflect light, which is why it's called dark. It doesn't emit, absorb, or reflect light. What dark matter is not, it's not regular matter. It's not made up of atoms, protons, neutrons, or electrons, which is what our atoms that we have in our physical reality are made up of. It's not dark energy. Dark energy drives the expansion of the universe, and dark matter holds everything together. It's not black holes. Although black holes are dark, they behave differently and can be detected by the light that they affect. And they're not antimatter. Antimatter annihilates when it meets normal matter. Dark matter doesn't seem to do that. So, completely different to the matter that we understand in our reality, that we interact with, that gives our material world. And it makes up 23% of the universe. And here we are thinking that our whole reality and everything that is real can account for 4% of what is in the universe. And then we have the dark energy, and it's what's creating the expansion of the universe. So a little bit about dark energy is, so dark energy is the mysterious something that drives the accelerating expansion of the universe. And what dark energy is not, it's not dark matter, we know that. It's not regular energy. It doesn't behave like kinetic, thermal, or electromagnetic energy. And in previous episodes, I've discussed the electromagnetic spectrum a lot, and that accounts for a lot of the energy that we receive. So whether it's radio waves, television waves, our eyes detect certain electromagnetic frequency in between a certain range, same as what we hear. And then we have X-rays and gamma rays. All of that is in our electromagnetic spectrum. But dark energy can't exist on there. It behaves differently. It's not fully understood, it says. It's a placeholder term for something we can measure indirectly but can't yet explain physically. It's crazy to think that scientists, physicists are out there studying this. It's unknown to us. We can't comprehend its role and what it plays. But to me, this dark matter and this dark energy is the invisible web that connects everything. The dark energy and the dark matter is essentially the web that connects all the planets and the stars and the galaxies out in our universe. How is it not then also connecting us? You know, if you can appreciate that potentially we were made from one small, say, particle, and it expanded and expanded and expanded, like the universe is supposedly continuously expanding. At one point we were all connected. Now, when I was putting washing on today, I had a thought pop in my head about this guy that I want to release a song with, and he had sent me some music probably 2 months ago now, and just randomly, and I noticed that it was subtle in the background. It wasn't an eye-generated thought, because I was putting on the washing, and it came in subtly in the background. And lo and behold, that night, I got a message from him. I hadn't heard from him for 2 months, saying, hey, how you going with the track? To me, that is pure proof to me that we are connected by an invisible web, a web that we can't detect with our 5 senses, that exists, that connects all things and is communicating with everything around us. And that's why it's so important, the environments that you put yourself in, whether it's the people that you put yourself around, the environment of the energy that's around you. Living by the ocean, there's a lot of clean energy, because if you think about it, living by the ocean, there's not multiple buildings and multiple amounts of Wi-Fi generated from out in that vast space, because there is only just water. But living in cities and dense places, there is a lot of energy bouncing around constantly. It's quite frantic and chaotic. Being in the forests, same thing. It's a natural balancer of frequencies. So your body will absorb and take in these frequencies. So it's really important that you be aware of the environments that you're putting it in, I suppose, and what you're feeding it. My voice, by the way, sounds really croaky because I haven't been well, but the show must go on and I need to be recording these episodes for you, or you won't have anything to listen to. So why are we not aware of these subtle frequencies around us, and why are we, not aware of this web that we're connected to? And I was proposed this analogy once about spotlight awareness and floodlight awareness. And spotlight awareness is what I think we've been brought up to use, and are only mostly aware of that. And that is what we are doing in this particular moment. So if I'm doing a maths question, my spotlight awareness and focus is on that maths question. Now in my classroom, I could have had all this noise going on around me and potential people talking to me, but my spotlight focus is on that question. Floodlight focus and awareness is more about what you would experience if you were to sit quietly in meditation. And all of a sudden you become highly attuned to the micro sounds that are around you, whether it's the bird chirping outside, or the clicking of the clock, or the cool air on your skin. That's like floodlight awareness. And that's where we can start to become attuned to more of those subtle frequencies and messages in the web that is around us. I wish that we were taught from a young age to become more attuned with this, because I do think it's like a muscle. The more that you do it, the more you can become aware. It's like for me now when I meditate, it's very fast for my brainwaves to go from beta to alpha, and I attribute that to seeing the colors in my mind's eye, just the waves of colors. My meditations go through like a sequence of changes. I can't jump straight from closing my eyes to going into this, what I call like the theta portal, where this black portal opens up and I can feel my awareness expanding right around me. But it takes time for my brainwaves to slow down, which comes from the melatonin being produced from you closing your eyes and there being lack of light, which causes the release of melatonin to slow the brainwaves down. Speaking of brainwaves, this is something that is going to be important with discussing our imagination. So our imagination can only really be accessed when you're using alpha brainwaves. An example of when you're using alpha brainwaves is when I've been talking right now on this podcast. I might say something or explain something in a way where you start picturing images in your mind. And if I was to look at you, I'd most likely see your eyes slightly go off center, off focus, and you'll start picturing images, and that's alpha brainwaves. And another example of when you have reached alpha brainwaves is when you're driving a car and you're going to a destination and you get there and you're like, I don't even know how I got here. And that means that you've been able to, your subconscious mind and your conscious mind are separate, and you're able to think through sort of conscious problems while your subconscious mind is able to drive the car. An interesting part from going from beta brainwaves to alpha brainwaves too is that there's like a bridge between beta and alpha, which is your analytical mind. And your analytical mind will decipher what is like good decisions or a good idea. And your limiting beliefs are usually put at bay here because your analytical mind can't say to you, you're not going to be able to do that. So what's really interesting is that your imagination is birthed in alpha and theta brainwaves. And because we don't have our limiting beliefs and our analytical mind isn't in the way, we can start to imagine some really impossible, out of this world type of concepts. And if you really think about this, every single thing in this room, this chair, this microphone, this jumper, whatever is in your space that's physical matter, had to be imagined in the mind first. That's like, sit with that for a minute. Every single thing you see had to have been created in here first. In the mind, which is connected to the soul, which is essentially connected to everything that we're connected to. And then once it's birthed into creation, it becomes manifested. And I love connecting these two because it's like a dream without action is just a dream. So I could ask you now to imagine some sort of object. I do these at my shows and people draw them. Something they've never seen before. But I get them into meditation first. And then I get them to think about what textures does it have? How big is it? How big is it in comparison to your hand? Can you do a 360 view of this object? And then I get them to draw it. And that's essentially us bringing the, etheric world, the imagination world, into the physical reality. So that dream without the action of drawing is just a dream. But the dream with the action creates the manifestation of the object. So if you have a dream of doing something without the action, it's just a dream. And I remember when I really had dreamt of being on stages and performing. But you kind of have to be playing an instrument and singing for that to happen. So I had to put one foot in front of another. And when I decided to start releasing music, I wanted to start playing gigs, and I didn't have any equipment to facilitate that. So again, I had to face this fear that I'm not going to be good enough, or that, mainly that one, and go out and buy the equipment and commit to practicing and go so I could go out and play. But again, the dream plus the action manifested it into real life. Two people that really understood this was Nikola Tesla and Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein understood it so much that he knew that he needed to be in theta brainwaves to reach like pure creativity or imagination. And usually the answers to his greatest scientific breakthroughs had come from him doing this one simple thing. What he would do is he would lay down and have his afternoon nap, and he'd have an apple in his hand, and he'd lay the apple and his hand down beside him while he was laying on the couch. And then as he started to drift into theta, his muscles would relax and the apple would drop, and it would wake him up. And he'd pick up the apple and he'd go back into that space so he could access that energy web around us that we're all connected to. The, potentially the Akashic records, or, the library of information that potentially, if energy can't be created nor destroyed, just transferred from one form into another, and we pass away and we have all this information, maybe it just goes back into the field around us. And then if you attune to the same frequency, you can access it. And is it that Nikola Tesla and Albert Einstein understood this? And they were essentially slowing their brainwaves down and accessing frequencies of information that we, with our spotlight attention or spotlight awareness, are unable to access because we haven't attuned ourselves to accessing the subtle frequencies around us. 95% of the universe isn't observable in our reality. 95%. I love finding that out because it means that we are so much more than I think that we're brought up to believe and understand. And it isn't wild to consider that we are able to access a web of information that is constantly moving and interacting with us whilst we move through time and space. And this web just exists and we move through it. And depending on what frequency we're tuned into determines what information we have access to. So could it be that the dark matter is the imagination that is the bridge bringing the imagination into reality? And could it be that our love, our intuition, our emotions could be this dark energy that's expanding us and expanding the universe as we grow in knowledge and learn? That web of information is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Who knows? I'm going to leave you there tonight. I hope that sparks some sort of, interest in understanding or, considering the next thought you might have that is a you thought, or maybe inspires you to sit down and listen and, inspire or evoke that floodlight awareness and see what subtle energies that you can pick up on. Remember, the world doesn't need saving, people do. And if we give the people the tools to save themselves, we save the world. Have a beautiful evening.
6 a.m. The coffee's brewing and I'm out the door. My podcast on, the traffic tones and I'm late again. And I get this stress response that life is getting on. This isn't what I want. Just wanna go back to bed. Don't wanna see my friends talking about their dividends. That's when I realize that I can live a life by design, not fall in the line like they want me to. That I can live a life that is mine, a life by design. Gonna live my life, gonna live my life, gonna live my life by design. Gonna live my life, gonna live my life, gonna live my life by design. Gonna live my life, gonna live my life, gonna live my life by design. I sit at home, the same show on. Keep scrolling on my phone and I feel the pain. Seeing lives of dreams and happy scenes that I'm just not in. And I get that stress response that life is getting on. Why is life so difficult? Just wanna be a kid again. Feeling trapped inside my skin, different to all my friends. That's when I realize that I can live a life by design. I fall in the line like they want me to. That I can live a life that is mine, a life by design. Gonna live my life, gonna live my life, gonna live my life by design. Gonna live my life, gonna live my life, gonna live my life by design. Gonna live my life, gonna live my life, gonna live my life by design.
by design. Gonna live my life, gonna live my life, gonna live my life by design. Gonna live my life, gonna live my life, gonna live my life by design. I wake up at 6 a.m.